All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 25 today, Biocentrism, Awareness, and Consciousness.
Are you sure
What's
it's
up?
25, man? I don't think you're
It's
conscious of this.
25. We're already at 25.
No, I thought that was like a couple of episodes ago.
No,
You
last one
sh
was 24.
All
No,
right, well,
I mean,
cheers.
it's basic counting. So I don't know if you're going to be able to handle all this quantum physics we're going to jump into, but
I can't, but I speak for the everyday.
yeah, you're the everyman. All right. So let's talk about I've been reading and listening to a book on tape, The Biocentrism and Beyond, by Dr. Robert Lanza. There's two books he wrote. Biocentrism is the first one. It's a theory that basically we create the universe, meaning like consciousness. So like everything you see, everything you feel, everything is all perception based on a world that we're creating right now, through our brain.
Okay. So I'm creating this all? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and what we're doing is when we communicate or we talk to each other, we have language or signal or whatever, we're all participating in this, like, not, it's not like a game, but it's like this, it's like learned, it just makes life more, makes it everything easier. Obviously, if you tell somebody, hey, can you grab me that, them knowing that you're saying, hey, grab me that, is able to, complete that function, so it makes it easier. But in terms of, um he was able to look at this through a couple different avenues, one being quantum theory and quantum physics, and then the other thing just being looking at what vision and perception is. If you think about vision, he's, in the book he talks about like most scientists and physicists that are working on consciousness, and they don't even look at vision, meaning that, we all agree that, red is red, but then there's been studies that, people might see different things or experience different things truly, but we all agree on certain things. I think Einstein talked a little bit about that, and I think Isaac Newton wrote something on that a long time ago, in like 1700s. So, some interesting stuff. But I mean, what do you think about all that? Do you think that that's, obviously there's a simulation theory, there's, creation theory, there's all sorts of theories.
Yeah, it's some of that stuff's hard to wrap the brain around. When I hear a lot of these things, it sounds like uh we're all each individually living in our own world. Is that what they're saying? Or
No, the opposite. This guy's saying that we're all, it's almost like Eastern philosophy in a way, that we're all one, really. We're all the observer, meaning that we're all just observing this, but we're all this one thing. So where it's, we at some point disconnected ourselves to make things easier for perception, but at some point, we were all the observer, all the same thing, observing the same world, if that makes sense to you.
so we're all God.
Um, I guess. I mean, if you look at it like that, that could be. I mean, that's, look. Nobody has the answers. If we had the answers, to these great questions of what are we, who are we, where do we come from, we wouldn't even be talking about this. So I think even scientists, have trouble with all this stuff. I mean, they can't even figure out what consciousness is or exactly why we dream. That one guy on, Joe Rogan a few weeks ago, I think his last name is Walker, Dr. Walker, was talking about all this stuff, like what we release when we dream, the brain, how much sleep you need, based on, your, lifestyle and all sorts of stuff. And as cool as all that stuff was, it's still, even that guy, when Joe Rogan's like, so why do we dream? He's just like, I don't, there's no real answer to that yet, So that's like the leading guy that understands all that stuff, and he even doesn't really,
Right, but my question is, if we're creating all this stuff, um, how do we create things that we don't even know about? In other words, like stars and planets and all that shit. Like you learn about that stuff, but they're out there before you learn about it. So how are they? You
How
know
do
what
you
I'm
know
getting?
that
You,
though? How do you
I
know
don't know.
until the first person sees it, and then it becomes part of the collective, observer, or the
Right,
collective
but then shouldn't
consciousness?
I know all the shit that other people have learned?
No,
Like I don't know about fucking Isaac Newton.
because you're not tapped into that vibration or that, thing. So like part of this is too, is like they explain in this, um, book, he explains that there's something called quantum entanglement. When what quantum entanglement is like basically what's happening is let's say there's a light particle or a particle of something here, it might react with something that's in a completely different galaxy. So I mean that's crazy to think about. Like for instance, I think there's been two studies on this. Some guy in like the 30s, and then some guy tried to recreate it. I think later on in like the 70s or the 80s. But Einstein said that it would be weird if that was the case, which now they're learning that most likely that is the case, that there's some sort of spooky, I think he called it like spooky, you know, some sort of like relativity to the other particle. So it's like this distant spooky thing that happens, like one particle alters another particle that's not even in our same galaxy. So I thought that
Spooky matter?
no, but like quantum entanglement. So like things that we can't explain could be some of these anomalies of stuff from different dimensions, different galaxies, stuff that we can't even perceive based on what we're living through right now.
It's pretty wild.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it too, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more it kind of makes sense in a way, because really we're basing everything we know on our eyeballs and what our eyeballs are. So like he was saying too in this book that most scientists, when they study this stuff, they're not even like looking at the fact that most people still think that won't like our eyes work as like lenses, meaning that's just this like lens or glass thing that we're just taking in this thing that's already out there. Well, first of all, the way if anybody's ever looked into how we actually capture the images and process it through our brains, it's pretty fucking crazy, and it's not as simple as some sort of external thing being intake into our body or intook into our body and then breathe. It's actually there's nerves, there's chemicals, there's a lot of shit that's happening to even be able to just see anything. So the fact that we base everything on just that one aspect, and that's only one perception too. Obviously, we can touch things. So like that would be another thing where you could say, oh, well, if I'm touching this table right here, it's definitely there. It's a real thing. But in reality, it might not be. It could. That's just another perception. Touching something there is just a nerve thing that is based on perception. It's like this whole picture that we're putting together. So I know it sounds basic and kind of weird, but I think if you think about it, it makes kind of sense in a few different ways.
Well, that's I don't know if it was in the book Electric Kool-Aid Acid or what it was in, but they were talking about how, if you lose your sight, your touch, this and that, you still exist and stuff. And
Right.
I'm sure a lot of like blind people are contemplating this kind of shit because they can't see, yet they're still living in the world.
Well, that's actually interesting you say that, because that's what they do studies in the book. There's a famous experiment where this guy had some sort of rod or something stuck through his eyesight, so he couldn't see anything. But yet they did this experiment where the guy would walk him towards a beam, and the guy knew when to duck and everything. It's called like blind sight, I think is what they called it. So people that lose their sight or people that have accidents or whatever, it's like having like a amputated arm. You still feel like that arm's there, kind of a thing. But except this is actually people being able to sense and see things based on that,
Well, it's like a video game when you have attributes, you lose your eyesight and you lose those, you get those attributes put into other things like sight or like hearing and taste and shit. That's why Ray Charles was so badass, or Stevie Wonder, because they were just forced to listen. So their ears, I don't know
Right.
how true it is in the movie Ray, but that a butterfly,
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest with you, look at like Helen Keller type thing. I think that would be interesting to look at, because she was truly, deaf, dumb, and blind, or whatever you want to say.
Well, you can leave the dumb part out. I mean,
Oh,
Jesus.
well, I mean, but I just mean that's what they used to call people.
No, I know. I'm fucking with you.
No, I know. The thing is with that is I think that would be interesting to look at, but I still don't think that somebody in that position they might have some different insight or have like a different outlook on what we're talking about, but I don't think somebody like that would just have the answers based on having to go through that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But if you're deaf, blind, That's insane. You're still
Right.
aware.
Oh,
Obviously, this lady wrote a book. You know, she's way brighter than I am. So,
well, there's different levels of awareness too. Like what I'm saying is like she might be a piece of the puzzle, but she's still just a piece. You know what I'm saying? Like I think to understand what we're talking about, you have to understand everything. And then even the stuff that, they knew, that maybe stuff that they can convey or not convey and just through observation or whatever. So, but yeah, I mean, it all comes down to this is that, again, we don't have any answers. The more I look into it, the more I think that, there could still be a God, there could still be aliens, there could still be all these things if this doesn't dispel any of that, and if anything, it makes more sense on certain
well, that's what I was
grounds
gonna ask
than,
you. What is this guy's views on how the whatever this universe or whatever they refer to it as? How did that be created? How did consciousness come to pass?
well, I haven't I'm not through this other book yet, but obviously he's saying that we're
They
not,
don't talk about God
well,
at all in
no,
it.
no, well, here's the thing, he's saying that we're not dead or alive, we just exist as pure consciousness in this world, and we're like weaving in and out of different things. So again, I think it has a lot to do um, with Eastern philosophy style of thinking with this stuff. But
So do
the
we have
other,
our own souls or?
yeah, I mean, according to everything I've read, this seems like this guy's um, on that realm of thinking. But
So it's like
here's
a
the thing too.
reincarnation type idea.
What do you believe is the soul too? Because then that's what we were. Because I've been listening to a lot of Rudolf Steiner again lately too, and kind of what Rick Emerson was talking about, how um, basically we are not just a soul but a spirit too. Your soul is almost like what gives you animation, and your spirit is like you know your true essence from the other realm, that like a divine spark kind of a thing.
Right.
But so this guy's saying though, like for instance, I was actually kind of thinking like while I was I was doing something else the other day and I was listening to the book on tape version. Um, he was talking about that thing we were talking about, entanglement, where one particle reacts with another particle. Now, if that's the case, maybe what we're seeing when people see UFOs or aliens or whatever, they could just be other beings from different galaxies or different things that we're seeing through this entanglement or through these different molecules reacting with each other, and bringing certain things to light, or maybe opening up some sort of thing that we don't understand, like a wormhole or something like that.
Or maybe it's just all kinds of craziness happening inside their own brain.
Could be that too.
Anomalies inside a brain.
Could be
Yeah.
some extreme DMT release that's just a random fluke event, or something clicked in their brain, or something happened. um but in terms of the God thing, um I think what you were saying would make kind of sense, that how you were just talking about how if that was the case, if this was all one and we were all one and we were all the observer, that we are all God. Because but that aligns with religion though too, because most religious texts from the past, or whatever you want to say, talk about you know we're a divine spark, or we're a piece of God. We were created in the image of God, or we were a piece of God, or whatever. So that kind of correlates with that too. So maybe there's a little piece of everything that kind of fits together with this. I don't think religion um, is the answer, but I think that there could be some stuff taken away from it that's important, obviously. But I think a mixture of spirituality, knowledge from past religions, all the science, physics stuff, quantum physics, all that kind of stuff, can you know build you some truth, build you some answers. But I mean, it's
Well,
always a
yeah, the
constant
truth's somewhere in between it all, but
right. And this guy talks about too, Dr. Robert Lanza also talks about how when he was in college, he wasn't taking drugs, he wasn't really doing anything crazy, but he was learning something in a library and something clicked in his brain. And for like 3 weeks, he had like these moments of enlightenment. It was like a constant, high or whatever, like everything he was learning had meaning, or, whatever. And I've actually felt that before when we first got into that Urantia papers. And then everything I had learned after that was like synchronized for the next couple months pure educational truth stuff, and some of it's changed since then of other things I've learned, but there was a lot of great stuff. It was almost like doing a drug for the first time for a few weeks. It was just, pure knowledge though. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, it was almost like a flow state of knowledge.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say it would be. And I don't know if you can even recapture that. He talks about how he's gotten to that like second stage of it a couple times, but he's never been able to recapture that full feeling of the first, moments of that. Um,
He's the creator of this whole theory.
yeah, yep. Um, and in the book though, it's not just his thoughts and science, and it's he's taking other experiments that have already taken place. Like he's taking this dude's work or this dude's work. He's talking about Schrodinger and philosophers and physicists and all sorts. Isaac Newton and Einstein and all sorts of stuff. So it's not like this is some completely new thing. And also, he talks about how even if this wasn't like reality as we know it, a physical reality, like that's all there is, it's still important to know the science and the laws. And obviously, it's not like that just dispels all that or trumps all that. It's just a part of it, it's just a part of the puzzle.
Yeah, hold on a second. What the fuck?
What do you,
I got a picture of this guy right here. He's very smart, man. He's touching a microscope and shit. He's actually quite young. I thought he would be a lot older.
I've never seen a picture of him. He looks a lot younger than I thought he was going to be.
I hope this is him.
I hope so too.
There's a bunch of pictures of the same guy. So
yeah, that's him. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the other day I was writing down a bunch of questions. So I saw a quote online, like one of those memes. It says, "Why do we tiptoe through life safely to make it to death?" That's so weird. Like, think about it. Like, we're all so cautious. We're all so worried. We try, the only thing is all we're doing is trying to stay alive just to die at the end. So it's kind of this weird thing that we do as human beings, that
no, some people are enjoying it.
I'm not saying you can still be cautious and enjoy your life,
But a lot of people think that when you die, that's the end. So you better live it up and
Well, there's two
enjoy
ways to
this.
look at that.
And they also want to live as long as they can. If this is the only life they have, then they want to enjoy it and enjoy it for as long as they possibly can.
Absolutely.
But
I think there's two ways to look at that quote too. Like what you're saying, like live every day to the fullest. I mean, I try and do that.
well, it's gotta be a nice, everything in moderation. If you
that's
will.
what I'm saying is, I'm a cautious ass person. I might be one of the most cautious, but at the same time, I still have fucking fun and live my life and have a good time too. So, I think it's a balance. Everything, like what you're saying, everything in moderation. But yeah, so like that's part of it. And that's like, I was thinking about other things like what's the evolutionary purpose of us surviving past childbearing years? Is life some sort of goal or a game? Like why do people believe in a creator or God? Like just going through all these questions. Why do we dream? Is consciousness a byproduct of years? That's the other thing, like the stoned ape theory. But then what if it wasn't just a stoned ape theory? Maybe by us hallucinating, it was allowing us to develop these senses based on like, what if what we're seeing right now isn't even really what it is, and that kind of correlates with this biocentrism stuff. Could be this just black empty world that we're projecting everything onto.
We're just living on this rock that's infested with fungus that's impregnating our minds with all
what
this
if it
consciousness.
Was that's a cool movie idea. Actually, I would go to see that.
Well, the biggest organism in the world is a fungi, ain't it?
Well, yeah, we talked about that 1/3 of all soils fungus, and during the evolutionary split offs, we're closer to fungus than we were with, I forget what it was, like plants or animals or something like that. So, there's something weird to all that too. You can look that up, and I forget what the exact thing with that is, but yeah, what do you think about like when you think about all these things personally, like when you're worried, thinking about God or thinking about what is this reality, like what do you think about, like what are your right now, if somebody you were standing on the edge of a cliff and they said, tell me right fucking now or I'm gonna push you, and you had to give a good answer, what would your what would you say is your belief?
I tell the dude to calm the fuck down, and well,
He
I
goes,
don't
I'm not
believe.
gonna calm the fuck down.
I'd say I'm going with Indian shit now. No, I believe in a mixture of a lot of different things, but I think that there was a man that walked the earth, um, that had a pretty solid view of things. I don't know if he was supernatural or not, but he came up with some codes, and I think we should abide by, in the most part, to those.
Who, God or Jesus? Who are you talking about?
Jesus, man.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Jesus is like, I believe he's real, and I believe he was a real person, and I believe most of the stuff you know about him. There are people that don't think he's real. There's people that think he's just like,
I thought it was
you know,
proven that there was a Jesus Christ.
yeah,
Then no.
there has been, but then there's people that say there's multiple Jesuses, and I just read this other thing interesting the other day. Back then, they didn't even have the letter J, so his name was actually like Yeshua or something like that. Um, it wasn't even what we know as Jesus today because they couldn't even say that word back then.
They called him
Um,
yeast.
no, but you like Yeshua or something like that. That's what they said his name is. But
You
yeah,
mean
there's a lot of people that say
Joshua?
different. But I personally believe he's real. I personally believe he lived his life in a exemplary, amazing way that I don't think anybody's replicated. And if they have, they're either a saint or, you know, very few flaws. But
No, no one's ever done it because you can't. The point
well,
is to
he did
repent.
it.
Well, yeah, he did it, but the whole point is that you'll never be able to do that. The whole point is accepting your flaws and either apologizing for them, learning from them, that kind of thing.
I think he was just able to block out our animal nature, our like baser instincts. He was able to get around our baser instincts through whether it was just meditation or understanding or, he had some, obviously, if he was, he's son of God, it was going to have some sort of powers or knowledge there too.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, look,
But they didn't
I
have
think
Pornhub back then,
yeah,
bro.
but you
I
believe in
mean, come
Jesus.
on.
But I'm talking about creation wise. Like, do you believe in the Big Bang? I think the Big Bang's the most convenient, stupid fucking thing. Um, and I've done a lot of looking into that too, as I have all these other subjects. And they don't even understand still what's going on with like dark energy, dark matter. Um, I don't know. I just think that there's so many questions out there that uh, there's got to be some sort of more simplistic way or simplistic fashion at looking at all this. I don't know. I think that this biocentrism might be either on some sort of track or,
Yeah, but where did it all start? That's what we all want to know, man. That's the juicy stuff. How did it all start?
yeah, but here's the thing that I'm talking about. Like, what if we got down this road where we're believing things through a certain way? Like, for instance, if you believe that this physical world is literally just a physical world that we're observing through, like, meaning that this is all constructed before we're here, whatever you want to say, then
Mm-hmm.
that you're basing everything you know on that. So take all that away, start from scratch, base it on this other thing I'm talking about. I'm not saying do this, but I'm just saying this should be a possibility that what if we're creating everything that we see, everything that we feel, everything that, we're creating this reality. So what if then we started from there and worked off of that? We might be down a whole different rabbit hole with more answers or, who knows, more technology, whatever you want to say.
Right. Well, I think that's what's happening now. We keep cracking open that can of worms, and all this shit starts to fly out of it.
Right.
So
And
we'll
then
see.
the other thing too that I think is really weird is, just because, like I was talking about how you touch, you feel, you see, or whatever.
Cotton. It's the
What if
fabric of our lives.
I wouldn't rule out some sort of there could still be a God even in a simulation thing. Obviously, it's the guy that created the simulation,
Right.
And if that's the case, we're doing the process now. We're in the process of creating these simulation worlds ourselves. So who's not to say that we're already like 5 simulations deep in like a process, Who's not to say we're part of something that's part of something that's part of something that's part of some, like you could keep doing that for fucking ever too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to do that forever. So it's already hurting my brain, man.
But it's a picture within a picture. Like we're creating AI, but at some point, what if we create AI that's so smart that it needs to cure its own boredom, so it creates more AI, and then there's all these worlds built in within worlds,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
Fucking wild, man.
but in terms of what I believe there is a creator God. I believe, obviously, we don't know what that means or what it is. I'm a firm believer. I think I've said this before that our brain is a receiver. I think we're receiving vibration, and that's this partly it's a mix of biocentrism, part of what I was talking about, like Nikola Tesla stuff, where we're literally in taking these vibrations in and creating this world simulation based off of the vibrations that we're, you know, like our brain's a receiver, and the moon's projecting it, or the sun's projecting it, or whatever you want, or an alien's projecting it, whatever you want to say.
Well, I don't think the sun's projecting it. That shit causes cancer and stuff. Seriously,
Well,
I was thinking about the other day. Because you could be like, oh, the sun is God. It creates life. It makes shit
the
grow.
Egyptians for a while thought that the sun was God.
But
Lots
too
of
much,
people.
yeah, until they prayed too heavily and they fucking started getting moles all over their backs.
Well, I mean, it's different when people have a darker complexion. Their
Right.
melanoma prevents them from getting things like that. But the other thing too, or melatonin, whatever the fuck that shit's called, um,
Melanoma.
mel- melanoma. Um, the problem with all that too is like it's evolution of anything. There's an evolution of God, evolution of science, evolution of thought, all that stuff. But I think that what you're saying, yeah, you can get into a rabbit hole and get stuck in something. I think you have to be super open minded. I think that's the thing I learned most by going through this like knowledge quest that I'm on, is that what if you get stuck in, oh, I have the answer, or I know what I'm talking about type of thing, I think you doing yourself a disservice. I try and be as open minded and listen to people, even if it sounds crazy, because there might be some sort of nugget of truth in there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've seen a lot of people going down these bad paths, but because they have no religion, so it's hard. Because when you see people pass away and there's not, you think that they're gone for good, and there's nothing after this. It makes life
Right.
a real fucking hell. I'll tell you that.
Well, they're giving people in California psilocybin.
It's always
um
back to the drugs with this guy, man.
no, but seriously,
I know,
and
I know. It's actually gonna. I
they're
think it's gonna become legal there pretty soon.
yeah, but they're doing it to ease these people's minds that are dying of cancer, so they can have these religious, spiritual experiences before they, pass on. And a lot of them are happier and, have a better outlook on things towards the end. So I think that there's a lot to that. Even if it just gave people peace of mind. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be legal? It's stupid.
Yeah, I actually think I'm gonna write a skit. It's called "When Neil deGrasse Tyson Took Acid." See what happens to this guy.
I wonder, has he ever
He
talked
had.
about it?
I
If
don't
he's
think
done
he's
drugs?
take. I don't. I don't
Yeah.
think he's done anything like that. It doesn't
Um,
seem like it, at
the
least.
one they have, that Star Talk podcast that he has, that I listen to sometimes on Apple Podcasts, depending on who's on. But the one they did talk about drugs, it was like, I think I told you this, it was like Bill Nye and some other random dude.
He goes, "I smoked a joint once." He goes, "It was scary."
Bill Nye's like, I took a hit off a cigarette. I know
Yeah.
all about drugs. But no, these people, they should not be listened to. The people that should be listened to on stuff like that, like a Graham Hancock or like a Sam Harris, or somebody that's actually done something.
Well, you can listen to anything, but listen to it, but have all the facts straight.
Well, I
No,
think
Bill Nye the
what I'm
Science
talking
Guy is no fucking doctor.
right. Well, I think what I'm talking about is somebody that has the background in science, and in either whatever the field is, science or medicine or psychology or whatever the case may be, and then they apply that to the experience. I think that becomes very interesting.
Yeah, that's why I
Um,
like Joe Rogan, because like even though he's a comedian, he's had all these range of people on, from people
right,
that have taken DMT to Neil deGrasse. So he takes all of that in.
right.
People are saying, oh, he chooses sides, he chooses this and that, but it's like, no, he's just listening to every side of the story. Plus, it's good for radio
Well, he
to have out
placate.
an array of guests.
I think that's important when you're interviewing people, is to placate a little bit to what they're talking about, so you can develops a bond or a trust where they're more likely to talk about the things that you want them to talk about.
Right. I mean, even when he had Blink 182 on, the dude, he wasn't
Tom
like
DeLonge.
ripping on him. He was, he waited
He
till
did for
after
a
to rip
second.
on
No,
him.
no, the part where Tom DeLonge like walks over to Jamie's booth or something. He's like, "This guy's fucking nuts" or
Yeah.
something. I don't think you could hear him obviously, but yeah, I think that whole thing. Yeah, I know. I mean, his show's obviously been a huge influence, and I think it's obviously my favorite podcast. I listen to a bunch, but that's probably the top one. If he gets somebody good on that I like, that's the first thing I'm gonna listen to.
Yeah. I like that one with the dreams the other day. That was pretty
It was a
interesting.
really good one.
He
That
hasn't
was
had a guest like that in a while, though. It's kind of bumming me out. It's a lot of MMA, and I don't even know.
He does a lot of like hunting. He did one with the hunting guy. Like I guess he just got off Hawaii right before the earthquakes and the volcano eruptions the other day.
Yeah,
He was hunting there. So yeah, he does a lot of like hunting ones, and I think it's just depending on who's available.
true. Yeah, I'm sure that is the
And some
case.
of these people, these scientists are probably so busy, they're not like a celebrity where like if I make a movie, I can just come on, like at any time if I'm free. So
Yeah,
um
that'd be
yeah.
cool if you had Lanza on.
Yeah, I think I've heard people talk about him. I think I heard Duncan Trussell mention him for a couple seconds on one of his podcasts, but I don't think
Duncan,
it's.
yeah, Duncan Trussell blew him.
But the thing is I think I like Duncan Trussell's podcast. It gets kind of weird sometimes and very mystical stuff, but sometimes there's some really good. And he gets people on there too that are super cool too. Same thing. I like Russell Brand's podcast a lot too. He gets a lot of scientists, like your Rupert Sheldrake's and your, um, you know, Dr. Cox, physicists, and
Yeah, I'm sure you're
always,
watching that one.
always with the jokes.
Does
Always with
does
the
uh
jokes.
does Trussell, does he believe in God, or is he
Yeah,
religious at all?
yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. Um, to what extent and what he is, I don't know, but he's talked about it a little bit on there. Um, yeah, I mean, he's had some crazy fucking people. He had that one like psychic slash what do you want to call it? Like
The dude that was talking in tongues.
yeah, that dude. So like there's all sorts of shit like that on there, but some of it's bunk too. Like, you just got to know, what obviously if you're smart or intelligent about certain things, you'll figure it out. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think it's podcasts are important. Obviously that's why we do this, is because there's not many people that talk about this stuff or think about this stuff. So if we can get, the world to watch podcasts as opposed to like CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or whatever bullshit's on TV, even ESPN's become a hot piece of garbage. No matter what you watch on TV, there's some sort of manipulation going on. And, honestly, for us, it's, yeah, we talk about stuff we like. Yeah, we make fun of things. Yeah, we, do different stuff. But I think for the main thing, the important thing that we do is just disseminate information that we know of, and people, can take that with what they will, either use it to further knowledge in a certain thing or try and debunk what we're saying. Either way, it's all good shit. So,
Right, right. Yeah,
but,
well, onward and upward.
so, but, we'll get into more a different day, but we'll wrap this one up, just make a short one. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about biocentrism because I think it's one of the more important theories today to explain everything. I don't know, there's really not many people trying to do that. It's a lot of scientists just pointing out shit that's right in front of our faces. So,
Well, from what I've wrapped my brain around, which isn't much, it sounds pretty interesting.
I highly, it's a good read, or you can get it on Audible, book on tape.
So this is like
But
string theory and all that stuff. It's all tied in,
he
or
talks about that. String theory has been debunked a little bit. I wouldn't say string theory's out of the question. I just think that there's a lot of wrong things that they're figuring out about it. So,
mm,
but it's always an evolution of stuff. We might come back to it, or there might be a piece of it that's super important. So, who knows?
yeah.
But all right, folks, we're gonna wrap it up, but we'll catch you next time, and peace out.
Peace.